Hey, what's up? I'm Seth, and this is What Movies Teach, the channel where I review a movie's lessons and content, ultimately to decide if it's a movie I want to share with my kids. I'm to the last movie in Phase 1 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, The Avengers. So I grew up in the 80s and 90s. I was not a comic book person, I was a movie person. And the comic book movies I knew were Batman and Superman. And as a child, when I learned that they had teamed up in the comics, I just assumed that that would happen in the movies. And I was disappointed. So when I heard about the Marvel superheroes, I knew about Spider-Man and the Hulk, but that was pretty much it. Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, they never had my interest. But when Marvel started putting these movies out, and these movies that were not just superhero movies, but were good movies with superheroes in them, and then they teamed them up together, I was really excited. It's a movie I'd been waiting for 20 years, a superhero team-up movie. And so when I asked the question, do I want to share this with my kids? The answer is yes, I want to share this with my kids, but should I? So I need to take a step back, look at the lessons, look at the content, and then decide. So let's take a look at it. First, this movie is rated PG-13 for intense scenes of sci-fi violence, and it also says a drug reference, which I don't even remember. I didn't even pick up on. So, there you go. So whether you've seen this movie or not, I'm going to talk about the lessons in it, and that usually is a bit of a spoiler, so spoiler alert. Okay, quick 1-minute synopsis to give background and context to these lessons I'm about to talk about. First, the world is in trouble. Loki, the god of mischief, who is likable, but a bad guy, he's evil, he wants to take over the world, and he has a weapon to do that. This weapon, it's a cube with immense power that could destroy the world, but he can also use it to create a portal to summon an army of aliens. Now, he has to do some things to be able to create this portal, so while he's doing that, he's also trying to take down the Earth's defenses. Nick Fury, the leader of the S.H.I.E.L.D. organization that's trying to protect the world, believes that some people in this world that are superpowered and good-natured, he's seen their actions before, he's seen them help other people before, he believes that they could come together and create a team to overcome this enormous challenge. The problems are, these people don't get along, and they work on their own, and it's going to take a lot to help them overcome the challenges that keep coming into play. Now, usually I just point out lessons that kind of happen chronologically in the movie. In this review, I want to talk about lessons that I learned from its characters. There are a lot of characters in this movie, and it could feel a little bloated. I feel like the filmmakers, though, did a good job touching on little points and little lessons for each character, and then bringing that all together. So, in random order, I'm going to start with Steve Rogers. I just talked about him in his Captain America movie. So in this movie, he starts off just as a man out of time, is what they say. He's super uncomfortable. So at the end of the last movie, he sacrificed himself to save the world by bringing down this plane. What happened is he got frozen in ice when he did that. He crashed into the water. In the water, he gets frozen in ice. And then we see at the end of that movie, and also recapped in this movie, he is thawed out, he's still alive, and it's been over 70 years. And so he feels super out of place. So the question we bring up is, what do you do when you feel like you don't belong, you're out of place, and you're just not comfortable with the situation? And the answer that Steve gives us is you show with your actions your responsibility, your leadership, and just your ability to get stuff done. He does not back away from a challenge or a problem. You know, problems keep arising. So you see Steve in one scene, you see that Iron Man and Thor are fighting two super-powered people. The Iron Man suit can take down a bunch of robotic drones, huge robots. We've seen that. Armies. We've seen it actually take out a lot of things. Thor, he has the strength, later we find out, to overcome a star. So that's crazy. But he's super powered as well. And you see that Steve sees that they need to be calmed down. He needs to talk to them. They need to help the situation. And so he jumps in. This situation could kill him. But he does not back away. He jumps in no matter what. And then you see Steve is just a kind of guy who, when the situation needs it, he takes charge. So by the end of the movie, he steps up, he takes charge of the individuals, these superpowered people, and he helps them overcome the biggest challenge, which is this huge oncoming army. That super overwhelming situation, it's 6 against hundreds. He takes charge, gives it all he's got, helps these people come together, and then helps them use their skills to overcome this great challenge, this big problem, which is this huge army. All right, next let's go over to Tony, Iron Man. I mean, it's been a lot of fun learning about his character. And even though I've talked about how maybe I don't want my children to emulate Tony, I think he's a lot of fun. He's got a lot of humor, and he's quirky, and he's not perfect. And I actually relate a little more with that. Because, with his personality flaws, I feel like maybe I can start working to make a difference in the world, even though I have personality flaws too. So that's relatable, and I like that about him. But he also comes into this thinking that people are like him, and he doesn't trust them. He thinks people are egotistical. He thinks people are hiding things. He thinks people have agendas, which are things that he's had in the past. How does he answer that question, or what do I learn from him? I see that in the end, you do just have to trust people in a crisis. You get to a point where you're falling from the sky. They're in this huge aircraft carrier that flies, and it is going to crash. And you have to put your differences aside, and you just have to get the job done. And you see Tony does that. You see that, in the situation of the aircraft carrier falling, and eventually in the end when they're fighting the big army, he does step up as well. He takes responsibility, and he tries to help in any way he can. But then you also see that when the team comes together, Tony puts his ego aside, and he takes orders, and he gets stuff done. And so in the moment of crisis, you sometimes just got to find your place and help out the best way you can. And for Tony, it was to listen to what Cap has to say, listen to the other orders and of your teammates, and getting the job done. And he does that. And the job in the end is sacrificing yourself for the greater good. Like Steve had done back in Captain America, Iron Man is accused in this movie by Steve of not being able to do that. And you see he rises to that challenge. It's pretty cool, and those are some great lessons that we learned from Tony. Again, in his past movies, I feel like his character did not go very far, but in this Avengers movie, it makes some leaps and bounds, and it's really fun to see. The next character I want to talk about is Natasha. She's also called the Black Widow. So she is pretty much the only female character, and I do complain again about the lack of female representation. There's just not a lot, but they're actually represented better in this film than they have been before. You see the females are strong characters who do step up to a challenge and don't shrink back. They're not love interests. They're people that fill their role well, and they help out in any way they can. And so Natasha does that. So she is not a superpowered being. She is just a spy. But you see that she does not back away from any challenges. I mean, her first challenge is to go and get and recruit the Hulk, which is a little terrifying. And you see that it does scare her. And then you see that she confronts Loki, this superpowered being, but she goes and talks to him. When people aren't able to get anywhere with him, she steps up, talks to him, and gets the information she needs. And then a second time, she helps out with the Hulk. When other people need to go do something else, she steps up and helps the Hulk, or Bruce, when he's transforming into the Hulk. I mean, she, again, is not superpowered. The Hulk could kill her in a snap, but she still stays and she helps out. She rises to that challenge. She does almost get killed, but she doesn't back away. And then in the end, the big challenge is she fights aliens with the team. I don't even know if she was ever supposed to be an Avenger. She was just a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. There's tons of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. But she's one that steps up, takes on a challenge, and then again stands in the circle with these other guys. She's the only girl, but she stands there and she fits there. Because then you see that she belongs in that circle of Avengers. Because her superpower is to take on any challenge no matter what and give it everything she's got. And she'll be there. She'll do it. And she does. And it's really cool. All right, so we learned that from Natasha. From Bruce, from the Hulk, we learned that, he has a lot of doubts about his limitations. He still doesn't think he has control, and he's worried about how that can hurt people. I mean, at one point, he does lose control, and he does hurt people, even people that are his friends. He does almost kill Natasha. Luckily, he's stopped by Thor, but it's an intense situation, and you see that he has some issues that he has to overcome. At the same time, when you see Bruce in a situation, he is always helping. It's really cool because Natasha finds Bruce in another country helping people who are sick. When he is recruited by S.H.I.E.L.D. to help them find Loki, he helps them as well. And then eventually, when there is this big army, he does learn to trust himself, to learn that he will do good, even as the Hulk, even though it's difficult. He's basically able to wield that power like he did in his solo movie to fight off the bad guys, and he does that, and that's pretty cool. All right, Thor in this movie, again, it's good that we already met him and we have the backstory. We see him come in, and he is kind of this guy who has a lot of ego still, and has a lot of power, and has this attitude of it's my way or the highway. And so he comes in, he tries to just fix the situation the best he can. He tries to just take Loki and go. That doesn't work. He tries to stop Loki by himself later. That doesn't work. So you see that sometimes you think you can solve a problem on your own, and we've learned that with the other characters. And Thor is so powerful that you think he probably could, but he can't. He's got to be able to work as a team. And you see, again, he puts ego aside when the time finally comes. He uses his power and he uses his skill, and he comes together as a team. He takes orders, he fights with the team, and they're able to conquer because he puts his ego aside. He puts his knowledge that he is this superpowered, and we find out later, like ancient. He's like thousands of years old, but he still is able to come together as a team and help conquer the evil Loki. And the last Avenger that we learn from in this movie is Hawkeye. He's not utilized super well. I mean, there's already a lot of characters, and basically his character is mind-controlled most of the movie. The only thing I learned from him is that, you know, after you're done being mind-controlled, you don't take a break, you don't go sit on the bed, you don't even shower. I don't think he even showered. I think he only shaved. But you still take action, and you help out, even if you smell awful and you've been traumatized severely by a situation. The world's about to end. You got to do your part to help. And that's what I learned from Hawkeye. Another character I learned from was Nick Fury. So he's the guy who's the catalyst that brings everybody together. He has faith in the actions of others, which I think is really cool. He has seen the actions that we've seen in the other solo movies of these people. He knows that they've done good. And he believes that coming together they can do better. And he motivates that, and he helps them do that. He's also a guy that doesn't just follow orders blindly. So he's working with this World Security Council to try and save the world. And their answer is to send a nuke to New York to destroy this alien army that's coming. And he says, I don't think that's the answer. And he uses his experience with people, with heroes, to come up with another answer that's a better answer. And he saves all the people of New York. I mean, could you imagine a nuclear weapon going off in New York? That would just be horrific. And he stops it. He uses his faith in people and saves the day. He does a lot to help. It's pretty cool. So that's what I love about this movie, is that you learn a little bit from each character. I mean, it's only a 2.5 hour movie. And so they're little, micro experiences that you have with each character, but they're woven together well. And they're fun. So the other thing I like about this movie, so if I could give a quick review, is that this movie is fun. There's a lot of humor. The tone works well. I love the music too. And you see that they're able to juggle all these little stories and all these personalities to come to this final conclusion of, if we come together in these big problems. And this is probably the big lesson in this movie, that problems happen and problems escalate. So you see that there's a problem after problem after problem. But you also see that they don't give up. Failure is giving up in a situation. These guys keep working and keep trying to figure it out, figure each other out, and eventually they solve the problem. They come together as a team, and they save the day. Do I love this movie? I do. I thought it was a lot of fun. There's some parts of it that maybe you do feel a little messy, but that messiness isn't really the tone or the style. The messiness is in the characters. They're not perfect characters. And while it's a little off-putting when they fight, those fights help the movie become what it's supposed to be. In fact, the best scene in this movie is a big fight that they all have, arguing with each other in this room. And you see that they have problems. You see that they don't work well together. But then right after that, they are put into a crisis where the ship that they're on, where they're talking, is going down, and they put all their differences aside. Okay, so that's the Avengers. And the big question I always ask at the end of this is, should I share it with my kids? So my kids, again, are 5, 8, 10, and 12. My 5-year-old and my 8-year-old have not really, at this point, had the context of the other movies before this. They don't understand. Some of them, I thought Thor they could probably watch. I think that was tame enough for them to watch. Some of the other ones, though, they just wouldn't understand and follow along with. And so I would probably wait for my 5 and my 8-year-old. My 10 and my 12-year-old, I think they're ready to watch the Avengers. They know these characters. It's a lot of fun. There's some good lessons in this movie. So as far as content is concerned, there's not really much language. There's a little bit of PG-13 language, but not very much. Not enough to have it stand out and be off-putting. There's no sexuality, and there is some violence. There's like maybe 2 scenes that I think kind of stood out to me as far as violence is concerned. There's one where Loki needs to get a scan of an eyeball, but to do that, he has to kind of like dig into the eyeball of this guy. You don't see it happen, but you hear him. He's really upset. He's screaming, and that's a little bit traumatizing. And then there's another scene where one of the characters we've met is killed by Loki, and that's a catalyst to bring the Avengers together. It does happen suddenly, and so I would just be aware of kind of the levels of understanding with your kids. That's one I'd probably want to be careful with. I don't know if I'd want to let them know it's going to happen, though, so I'm going to have to think on that just a little bit. There is some other violence, though. I mean, Hawkeye, who is a hero when he's mind-controlled, does kill a lot of people. And then at the end with the aliens, they're just thrown around by Thor. A lot of them are killed. Civilians are killed. And so, there is a high level of violence to raise the stakes of this situation. Okay, so that's the content. So would I show this to my kids? My younger two, no. My older two, I think I would. I want to, and I think they're at a maturity level and understanding of fantasy, that this is just a movie, that it's not all real, but it's a story that we're experiencing together. They have that understanding, and they would be okay with it, so I would show it to them. Okay, and so then some questions that I could ask my kids, that you could ask your kids, is, after watching this movie, what are some good things to do when things keep going wrong? I might also ask the question is, what makes a good Avenger? What does it mean to be an Avenger? And then I'd probably ask something like, why did the Avengers succeed? I mean, what was their trick? Was it just their power? I mean, what was it that really helped them succeed? And kind of see what they say. Okay, so that's what I learned. That's what I think about this movie. Let me know what you learned. Let me know what you thought. Comment below. If you like this video, then like it. And if you like videos like this, if you like reviews like this, then subscribe to my channel, and I'll talk to you soon.